Do you remember the time UFC sent Chuck Liddell over to Japan to fight in Pride? MMA community, do you remember Bellator sending Mo Lawal over to Rizin here recently? Cross promotions are a thing that's been promised between Bellator and Rizin. We've never had anything like what we're going to have this New Year's Eve, though. And I'm not talking about the Floyd Mayweather fight. That's a whole different story. That's an exhibition when it comes to this thing. We got champion versus champion up in this thing. Kyoji Horiguchi versus Darrion Caldwell. And this will be for the 61 kilogram championship. You got that right. At Rizin 14, Bellator champion Darrion Caldwell will challenge for the Rizin 14 championship against Kyoji Horiguchi. The Bellator title will not be on the line. The Rizin title, however, will be 100% confirmed by Rizin and Bellator. So Caldwell, of course, is 13-1. He's won 4 in a row. Bellator, he's established himself as one of the top fighters at the lower weight class, not just in Bellator, but in the world. He's a former NCAA wrestler, beat Noel Lahat recently for the 145-pound title with the second round knockout in August. So Scott Coker is on board with this. He tweeted out just on the 28th, sending our Alpha Wolf to Japan at the Wolf MMA. Let's go get you another belt. So he's fine with him going over there and getting another belt. And I guess he's not worried about losing him to Rizin. I guess he probably shouldn't too much because, I mean, they allow both promotions are allowing fighters to go back and forth. So unless he plans on moving to Japan, he probably likes that situation. Horiguchi for the Rizin side is a former UFC title challenger at flyweight. He's won all 7 of his fights since coming to Rizin as a free agent in 2017. On Rizin signing new stars like crazy. They just signed another one that we'll be talking about that later, probably on tonight's live stream. The Crazy B, as they call Horiguchi, has finished all but 2 of his bouts. Was the Rizin 2017 Bantamweight Grand Prize winner. Grand Prix. These Grand Prix are coming back, and they're very popular. They're extremely popular. And these are 2 promotions that have both done Grand Prix recently. Rizin and Bellator. Dana White has said in the past he's not a fan of tournaments. He's not a fan of the Grand Prix. So I think Bellator and Rizin are gonna poach some fans out of that. I don't think he likes it because he doesn't like to see the risk of his fighters being injured so much. And that's a legitimate risk for sure. But why fighters... It just seems to me like fighters are injured a lot more in the UFC, but that's probably because there's a lot more fighters. What do you guys think about this, though? Darrion Caldwell versus Horiguchi. Do you guys think this is a good thing, bad thing? What other cross-promotion fights would you like to see from the UFC, from Bellator going to Rizin? Could even be UFC versus Bellator if the UFC was willing to do this. Like I said, they've done it in the past. In Pride, I'm sure Gegard Mousasi would like to get revenge on some of the people in the UFC when they kind of overlooked him, let him sign with Bellator. I think that was a big mistake, as a lot of us have talked about. And Rizin, they got boxing going over there with Floyd Mayweather. I know it's an exhibition, and it's not ideal, but it opens the door for anything to happen. I mean, Japan, you can a lot of things have become a freak show in the past, like when Muhammad Ali went over there for an exhibition, different things. But Japan, at least they're open to a lot of different things. Kickboxing versus MMA, boxing versus MMA. It's a whole different array of fighting over there, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But I think it's exciting. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing some of the boxing champions go over there and fight. MMA actually fight over there in Rizin. Or what about the UFC guys or heavyweights? Why don't we get, some Bellator guys to fight some UFC people? I mean, you could do a lot of different things. Who wouldn't want to see Fedor Emelianenko versus Junior Dos Santos? I was looking at fights coming up here recently, and honestly, that's one of the matchups I'd like to see. Fedor Emelianenko seems to be, he seems to be kind of back. We'll see how he does with Ryan Bader, but he's torn through this Bellator Grand Prix like nobody's business. Junior Dos Santos getting a little older, but I think that would be an incredible matchup, to be honest. And of course, Fedor against a lot of the heavyweights in the UFC. I would love to see that. Don't forget tonight, Ultimate Fighter finale live reaction stream here on Fights with Friends, and the 4th week of Fights with Friends MMA trivia, and it will be all Ultimate Fighter based. So all the questions will be based on things that happen in the Ultimate Fighter. Could be all the way from episode 1 all the way up to last season. So study up on your Ultimate Fighter. Until then, as always, I love you, I respect you, and I'll see your fine asses later.